Today's video is brought to you by creativesdothis.com.
The body was discovered in the backyard of an Akron woman who's been missing now for more than a month.
I'm looking back at text messages thinking, I'm feeling guilty.
Very loving person, always smiling, give you the shirt off her back.
Akron Police, just come outside. How you doing? Is Martha here?
She's probably at her boyfriend's house.
A ring of bricks in a quiet backyard on Crouse Street. Ordinary and pretty unimportant. But on a warm September afternoon in Akron, Ohio, something about it felt wrong. Robin's family had been searching for her for weeks. Phone calls went unanswered. Doctor's appointments were missed. Flyers were now stuck to anything that would hold a staple. But still, no news. So the family came back here, to the one place they felt that something was wrong. They walked into the backyard, and that's when they saw it. A bed of ash in that same fire pit. But the ash wasn't settled how it should be. It shifted too easily, like it had been disturbed already. And sitting amongst it was a burnt piece of paper. Angela, Robin's cousin, picked it up carefully. The edges were curled and blackened, but the center of the page had survived the flame, and printed on it there was a single word, Jehovah. And that is when this story goes from bad to worse, because that one single word told a horrifying story that was 18 years in the making. By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with regular uploads every single week. So if all of that sounds like your kind of thing, then make sure you join the Dark Case family now by hitting subscribe and turning all notifications on. And now for today's silly little question. What has been the absolute best day of your life so far? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube, are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, of course, thank you. And now, on with the video. Before the events of this video, there was Robin, a person like you or I. Martha Robin Freitag was a mom. She was a daughter, a sister, a cousin, and a friend. The kind of person who smiled with her whole face. The kind of person that would literally give you the shirt off of her back. If a neighbour needed help moving furniture, Robin was there. If a friend needed a place to crash, Robin found a pillow and made up the couch. If a stranger needed a bus schedule or directions, Robin would take the time to walk them halfway there. She didn't have too much materially, but what she did have, she shared. Robin was incredibly smart, and at one time she'd even been part of Mensa. That's the group for people who score in the top 2% on IQ tests. However, even with these results, she never bragged about it. Her intelligence showed up in quiet ways, in the way that she could fix a curtain rod with whatever tools were lying around, in how she could stretch a tight budget just far enough, and her creativity filled the little house on Crouse Street. She loved sewing. She made whimsical curtains for every room, patterns that didn't quite match on purpose. They were fun, loud, and chaotic. She painted the rooms herself, picking colours that made the place feel warm even on a grey Ohio day. Out the back of the house, she'd set up a simple little kingdom for her grandson. A tree fort, a trampoline, a yard where he could just be a kid and have fun. And always by her side was Sammy, her giant old black Labrador. He was clumsy, loyal, a little slow, and he absolutely adored her. Robin was also deeply spiritual. She studied the Bible on Sundays with Jehovah's Witnesses. She treated her Bible like it was a living friend, a guide. She was careful with the pages. She made notes in the margins. She never left it lying around on the floor. She never mistreated it. So when her cousin later saw that burnt scrap with Jehovah on it, everyone who knew Robin understood what that meant. Robin's home was her sanctuary, her canvas, her safe place. But in 2018, something else was living inside that house too. something that rotted the home from the inside out. This video is sponsored by Creatives Do This, a platform that I've helped to launch that features real interviews with real artists, candle makers, musicians and creatives of all kinds who are making it work. Right now we're looking for creatives to feature, so if you've made money from your creativity, whether it's a full-time career or a new side hustle, and you want to share how you did it, we'd love to hear your story. It's just a short text-based interview and it takes around 10 minutes. And in return you get free lifetime access to everything that the platform becomes. Plus your work will get featured to inspire others and to build your brand. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment to take the quick interview and to become one of the 100 founding members. There's now less than 50 spaces left. www.creativesdothis.com. By late July of 2018, something felt off. Robin was not answering her phone. She wasn't replying to text messages. She wasn't showing up for her usual routines. At first, her daughter Kim tried to rationalize it. Maybe mom's phone died. Maybe she's busy. Maybe she's mad at me. But then, those days turned into a week, and then 2, and then longer. Still no word. And for Robin, who always stayed in touch, who always kept her appointments, who always showed up, this really wasn't normal. Not even close. Her neighbours hadn't seen her either. Friends no longer heard from her. Even the doctor's offices that she visited regularly had called the police, worried that she'd stopped attending her appointments. Everyone was feeling it. Robin had gone quiet. Far too quiet. Kim finally reported her missing on September the 5th. Her voice cracked when she told police her fears. "My mom's boyfriend. I'm afraid he did something to her."
Akron Police, just come outside. How you doing? Is Martha here?
No, she's probably at her boyfriend's house.
What's your name, bud?
David.
David Callahan? All right, come on down here for me. Just have a seat if you would. Why do you think she's at her boyfriend's house?
Oh, that's where she stays most of the time.
Where's that at?
I don't know. I don't even know who it is, really. I mean,
Are you the only one here?
Me and the dog, yeah.
You and the dog?
I mean, she's here maybe a couple times a week anymore. I mean, we've actually been split up for a year. We've been in separate bedrooms for the last year. I mean, she's schizophrenic. She's been on and off her medication I don't know how many times. You know what I mean? Everything's top secret. I guess her and her daughter's fighting again.
604 to computer. Well, that's part of the reason we're out here, because no one in her family's talked to her since July.
I don't know how. I know she's texted her.
No, she hasn't.
Times. If she has another phone besides that. It's nice.
Well, who are you getting text from?
Huh?
Who are you getting text from?
Her? She has a. I mean, I see her very randomly here. You know, the house is in her name. We got the house 8 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I'm making arrangements to move on slow but sure. I just don't have the money. You know
right.
What I mean? I'm trying to. Like I said, I know she's seeing somebody else. I've dated.
What's his name?
I don't even know. I've never met him.
Where does he live at?
I don't know. I have no idea.
What does he live in Akron?
I would think so.
You would think so, but you don't know.
No, I don't.
Is she in Ohio?
Yeah, as far as I know, yes.
When's the last time you talked to her?
I don't know, probably, say 5-6 days ago, maybe.
Where was that at?
That was here.
She stopped up here?
I just see her in passing. I was leaving and she came out.
Yeah.
What's her?
When police checked the home after the missing person report, they found nothing. No Robin, no signs of forced entry, nothing that was obviously wrong. But at that time, they had no idea that the truth was only a few yards away. And so police kept on searching. The family kept on calling, and time kept on passing. The silence around Robin grew heavier, until one day, the family went to the one place that police had never quite looked at closely enough. That was the backyard, and what they found would change everything. Crouse Street isn't a typical neighbourhood, at least not anymore. Once, decades ago, it was a full street lined with family homes. There were kids riding bikes. It was a tight-knit pocket of Akron's Middlebury area. But over the years, the street thinned out. Houses were demolished, and the once peaceful area was now plagued by noise from Route 8. By 2018, only 2 houses remained on Robin's end of the road. 2 old structures built in the 1890s. 2 survivors from a whole other era, standing side by side like forgotten monuments. And now both of these houses had recently been touched by tragedy. Just a few months before Robin disappeared, the house next door, 600 Crouse Street, went up in flames. An elderly woman, Gertrude Stoberman, perished inside. Her daughter insisted that something about the fire felt strange. There were things missing from the home. Windows mysteriously unboarded the very next day. Items tossed around the burned-out house, as if someone had been inside afterwards. Police closed the case quickly, blaming an accidental fire. But neighbours were uneasy. There was a sense of something unfinished, questions unanswered, and that strange tension seemed to stretch across both properties. The whole cul-de-sac felt as though it was holding its breath. And now Robin's family felt it too, every time they searched the area. The overgrown brush surrounding the property, the industrial scrapyard humming nearby, the strange silence of a street that was once full of life. They now walked those sidewalks, with the missing posters in hand. They taped and stapled them to telegraph poles and bus stops, several to the front of Robin's own home. But now those posters proved useless, and they just fluttered in the wind like red flags. Something bad had happened, and it had happened nearby. Meanwhile, crisis intervention teams kept on returning to 606 Crouse Street, carrying out welfare checks. 5 or 6 visits in total. Sometimes the house was locked, sometimes it was open, but each time nothing seemed out of place. Nothing screamed danger, and none of these officers thought to examine the backyard fire pit either. It was just the fire pit, something that almost every house on this road had. Nothing unusual about it, but the people who knew Robin well could feel that something was just wrong. That atmosphere on Crouse Street was growing worse, and they really had a feeling that Robin was close. Everybody could feel it. At that time, they just didn't know how close. It would take just one more search, led not by the police but by family, to finally break the agonizing stalemate, because the truth was waiting. On September the 9th, the family gathered in the Middlebury neighbourhood once again. It was raining on that day, a slow, steady drizzle that soaked the missing person flyers until the ink bled. But in spite of the weather, nobody went home, not when Robin was still missing. They searched until their shoes were caked in mud. They canvassed the empty lots that used to be family homes. And all the while, they talked about one person, a person that everyone suspected, David Callahan. Because just days earlier, the family had learned something unsettling. David wasn't out causing trouble. He was already in Summit County Jail, but on charges unrelated to this case. 3 days later, on September the 12th, Robin's cousin Angela asked the family to gather once again. It was that feeling about the house that just kept pulling at her, a feeling that she couldn't explain, but it was a whisper of intuition that she just could not ignore. When they arrived at the house, they noticed something strange. Scattered across the yard were small piles of disturbed dirt, small things that hadn't been there before. They suggested that perhaps someone had been digging in the dirt. It had got stuck to their shoes and then fallen off across the lawn. To the family, though, it appeared odd, unsettling, and out of place. They started poking around in the yard, digging small holes, just testing the soil, the layers, the texture. But they still weren't actually making any progress in the search. Angela became frustrated and emotional, so much so that she looked up at the sky and said softly, "Robin, we need a sign, please." At that time, she didn't know she was only inches away, just a few steps from the fire pit, just a short walk from the truth. Because hidden beneath those ashes, beneath the burnt paper, beneath the cold dirt, was everything they'd been searching for. The next morning, September the 13th, 2018, the family returned to Robin's house with a clearer purpose. This time they approached the fire pit. It wasn't large, just a few feet across, a circle of bricks, the kind of thing that people use for weekend bonfires. Something ordinary in this area, something that nobody had questioned until now. Angela stepped towards it first, and she nudged the ashes with her shoe, and she felt that they shifted too easily, like something had been hidden beneath them. And then she saw it, a scrap of burnt paper that she hadn't noticed the day before. She picked it up. The edges were blackened and curled, but one word survived the flames: Jehovah. This must have been Robin's Bible, her most protected, cherished belonging, and now burned. Angela's voice trembled. Robin would never let anyone burn her Bible. Never, she said. She dropped to her knees, and then the others joined her, brushing away the ash with their hands. Softly at first, and then faster, more frantic. They didn't find the compacted soil of a normal yard. Instead, freshly turned over soil, with a thin layer of rocks and ashes on top, almost like someone had tried to disguise a disturbance. Someone whispered, "Oh my God, what is this?" And within minutes, the family realized they had found something far beyond just a clue, something they had been praying that they wouldn't find. They called the police and backed away. Then they waited.
You tell me.
Well, here's the deal. Highly suspicious. Seems like a body part. But we didn't want to dig it out anymore till you guys got here.
Yeah.
41.
But I think you know, all of us would want it dug out a little bit more before you guys can say.
41, you copy?
Yeah, well,
that's about it.
let's check. Was it dug out when you guys got here?
That guy.
What made him, did he say what made him start digging?
Yeah, he gave the whole story to the other officer and us. But
Soon, investigators arrived. Crime scene tape went up. Neighbors watched from their windows and reporters gathered on the sidewalk. Then a team of forensic anthropologists from Mercyhurst University were called in, specialists in carefully recovering buried remains. They set up screens, small tools in hand, evidence markers, and slowly, methodically, they sifted through the ashes. They packed away the burned pages. They cleared the soil layer by layer until one of them stopped. And in the quiet backyard, beneath grey Ohio skies, a voice finally broke through. We found something. By afternoon, investigators had uncovered a body, situated in a shallow grave beneath that fire pit. The family stood across the street, numb. Hours later, the Summit County medical examiner confirmed the truth. The remains indeed belonged to Martha Robin Freitag. Robin had been at home the entire time, just feet away from the place that she built with so much love, hidden in a backyard where she once planted flowers, where she decorated fences, and watched her grandson playing. And now the question became unavoidable. Who put her there, and why?
The Summit County Medical Examiner and Akron Police working tonight to answer a lot of questions, including who was the person buried in the backyard? Was this a murder? And if so, who's the killer? Anthropologists, along with a forensic scene recovery team from Mercyhurst University, called to a backyard on Krause Street in Akron to methodically dig up and document human remains buried in a fire pit. Charles Long, who works across the street,
it startled us. We couldn't believe it.
Was saddened by what appeared to be an intense, taped-off crime scene.
Oh, it's shocking. I mean, to think it's right here, you know. I mean, that's amazing to us that it would be that close to home.
The digging took place at the home of 53-year-old Robin Freitag. Her family reported her missing last week, stating no one had heard from Robin in more than a month. Missing person flyers posted on her front door and on telephone poles. Police say her disappearance was already on their radar.
We've came out, we've checked the property on more than one occasion, even prior to the report being taken. We've had calls from doctors' offices saying that she didn't show up for appointment. It was unusual. Could you go out and check the well for?
But nothing suspicious was found at the house until a family member searching the backyard yesterday found a body in the fire pit. Police are not following any other leads on Robin's whereabouts, but it's too early to tell if the unearthed remains are hers.
And that is obviously a critical component for us to identify this individual and to let the next of kin know for certain that this is their loved loved one.
By mid-afternoon, the remains were transported to the Summit County Medical Examiner's office. Tonight, police not naming any suspects, but they're treating the case as a homicide.
Well, of course, we're going to treat it as a suspicious death, potential homicide at this point, but until we have a chance to really examine the remains, we don't know exactly what we're dealing with.
Investigators say it could take days to positively identify the human remains, even weeks if DNA testing is needed. In Akron, Bob Jones.
The Summit County Medical Examiner determined that Robin's time was ended from blunt force trauma to the head. It was phrased in filings as a deliberate and violent impact. This was not an accident, and according to prosecutors, only one other person was in the house with her that night. Once Robin's remains were identified, investigators could move quickly. The timeline that they uncovered was chilling. Robin had last been heard from on July 31st, 2018. Her digital footprint began slowing down at around the same time, and then by early August, family couldn't reach her at all. David Callahan was 52 years old. He had a long criminal record, a history of substance offences, and a man who, by all public accounts, seemed to habitually orbit generally bad stuff. But Robin, gentle, hopeful Robin, had always tried to help him. Even when they were no longer in a relationship, she let him stay in her home. She believed that he just needed support. She believed that she could fix him. But the warning signs really were there. A crisis intervention team had been called to the house on at least 5 or 6 times in the previous year. Once, Robin told the team that David had locked himself in an upstairs room, and when police tried to talk to him, he jumped out of the second-story window and then ran. Another time, she reported that he threatened her, but she never followed through with those charges. And it seems that this wasn't out of fear, but because she didn't want to ruin his life. And it would be that choice, the choice to protect him, that would end up being one of the darkest twists in this story. He and Robin had been together on and off for years, nearly 18 years in total, as confirmed by some family members. But by 2018, their relationship was strained and extremely toxic. They lived in the same house but were no longer together. By mid-September, as the search for Robin intensified, David landed in jail on an unrelated charge. He said nothing about Robin's disappearance, but he couldn't hide the truth forever, because when the family uncovered the fire pit, when detectives saw the state of the burial, when investigators pieced together the timeline, every single sign pointed towards David Callahan. What came next would bring Robin's family face to face with David in a courtroom and bring the case to its final breaking point. After Robin's body had been found, everything moved quickly. David Callahan, already sitting in the Summit County Jail on those unrelated charges, was now officially accused of the crime. Police brought him into a courtroom on murder, tampering with evidence, abuse of a corpse, and DV. He showed little to no emotion. He stared forwards and kind of softly scowled. Not a single flicker of remorse. Robin's family filled the courtroom, sitting shoulder to shoulder. Some held tissues, some held hands. All held grief. They could not have predicted what was coming next. For months, the case built quietly behind the scenes. Investigators documented the fire pit excavation. Anthropologists delivered their findings. The medical examiner confirmed the cause of death. And the evidence, both physical and digital, stacked up. David's trial was scheduled for March 27th, 2019. But something unexpected happened that morning. Instead of a long and intense trial, his hearing shifted into a plea. David now pled guilty to all major charges, not taking a deal for a lighter crime, and no attempt to claim innocence on any level. Just a shocking and sudden admission. Even then, he barely reacted. There were no apologies, no tears, no nothing. Prosecutors would later say that on August the 6th, that is when David attacked her, and instead of calling for help, instead of saving the family any more pain, he tried his best to conceal what had happened. For weeks afterwards, police believed that David tried to maintain the illusion that Robin was still alive. Family members said that he even cruelly impersonated Robin online, sending out a message from her Facebook account. However, this message did not sound like her, and her loved ones instantly recognized that something was wrong. Robin's family, they had now waited to be heard for months, and at sentencing on May 6, 2019, they finally got their chance to speak. Robin's daughter Amy stepped up first. Her voice shook. She said her relationship with her mother had been strained in recent years, something that she'd hoped to fix, but now something she'll never get the chance to repair. "I don't think anybody wants to be out in the world with somebody like this," she said. "He's a predator to everybody." Robin's cousin Angela told the court about finding that charred Bible page, the moment that she realized that something was terribly wrong. She would never allow someone to burn her Bible, she said. Then came David's own sister, Pam Steele, and her words cut through the courtroom. "He has no remorse about killing her," she said. She told the judge that she wished her brother had to watch, every year, the video of Robin's body being exhumed, to feel the weight of what he'd done. "I love my brother," she said through tears, but Robin had an awesome heart, and she thought she could fix him. It led to her demise.
Police, the victim's family, and even members of his own family are blaming this guy for her death, 52-year-old David Culligan.
How dark do you have to be? How demonized do you have to be to take your loved one's life like that?
That's Pam Steele. She's Culligan's sister. Steele says she's known Freitag for 15 years as her brother's girlfriend, and she was like part of the family.
She was very creative. She was forever doing things in her house, making curtains, painting rooms.
Steele says she hasn't talked to her brother for nearly a year, but still had a strong relationship with Freitag. She blames herself for not noticing the signs.
I'm looking back at text messages thinking, I'm feeling guilty. I'm thinking she's, it wasn't like she would call me up or text me and said that she was being abused. She would just say they'd be in an argument and he's really mad and he's like getting in my face.
Finally, Judge Alison Brew delivered her final decision: life in prison. There would be the possibility of parole after 18 years, which is just 3 years more than the minimum. The court was silent. Some cried, some nodded, some simply stared at the man who had taken so much, yet still didn't seem to care. And even as David was being led out in handcuffs, Robin's story still wasn't defined by what he did. It was defined by what would come next. After the sentencing, Robin's family stepped out of the courthouse into the cool May air, exhausted, relieved, but still grieving. Justice had been served, at least in a legal sense, but nothing could bring back the woman that they loved. Nothing could undo what had happened in that little house on Crow Street. And yet, in the weeks that followed, something beautiful did happen. On September the 16th, months after she was found, Robin's family and friends gathered again, this time not to search, but instead to celebrate.
Friends and family gather tonight to say goodbye. Candles still burning in her honor, and family tells me they still can't believe she's gone. They wore her favorite colors and shared some emotional words.
It was impossible not to love her.
As they mourn the death of Martha Robin Freitag.
Very loving person, always smiling, give you the shirt off her back if it was her last one.
Friends and family of Freitags came out by the dozen Sunday night to say goodbye, and they finished their tribute with a balloon release.
They wore her favorite colors. They shared stories about her, how she sewed the curtains that made the house into a home, how she painted the rooms in bright, hopeful shades, how she so loved her dog Sammy, and how she lit up around her grandson. Dozens of balloons, pink, blue and white, were released up into the sky. People tilted up their heads, watching them drift higher and higher until they disappeared into the clouds. And for a moment, there was a semblance of peace. Because Robin was not just what happened to her. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, a soul who injected colour into the world. And that is what her family choose to remember. A woman who loved deeply, gave endlessly, and left a positive mark on every life that she touched. As those balloons rose over Akron, the breeze carried them away from that dead-end street where she once lived, past the backyard where her family fought to bring her home, and out into the quiet Ohio sky. And in that moment, Robin was not simply missed, she was deeply remembered. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.